The democratic process is a sitting duck for our money power. Invariably, we determine the candidates of the major parties and then proceed to pick the winners. Any attempts at campaign reforms simply put the rules of the game more firmly under our government's control. Welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us this evening. We greatly appreciate all of you and hope that life finds you blessed. I'm going to add them right now. And that you're having a good new year and that life finds you of good health and well being. We are doing our Genesis Revisited series, and I'm waiting for Rob to jump online with us. Is he having problems? Oh, really? Tell him to update his Skype, and then I'll try again in a few minutes. But okay, well, Rob is having problems getting onto the conference call with us, so hopefully we'll be able to patch him in a short bit. In the meantime, we'll talk a little bit about the insanity that's been going on, and I haven't looked at and examined it in great detail, but one of our listeners did tell me that there were a lot of as far as the protesters that stormed the Capitol and that incited the riot. Of course, Trump is being blamed and Trump supporters are also being blamed, but it seems like there's an agent provocateur side to the whole story. And usually there is, even with the whole Black Lives Matter, with the rioting, the burning down of buildings, the looting of businesses, that also had a paid informant side, and also as far as those, the rioters and those that incited the violence, that this was a part of what are groups that are paid by certain covert aspects of government to lead peaceful protests into basic insanity, and then to give government, police forces, and the city government's National Guard, give them pretext and reason to crack down. And it's always the constitutionalists, the Christians, and patriots that are made to look bad in the situation. And the way that the violence is escalated, then, it leads to mayhem and murder. And we saw that, there was, I think they said 4 people ended up being killed in the whole situation of what went down in the Capitol. Now, whether, this is, again, I don't know with any certainty. I have not looked into it with great detail. I'm sure many of you have looked into and examined this with more precision than I have. And so I would ask, those of you that do have knowledge on this, Um, if you could provide some insight, that would be great. And I will go ahead and log in to the YouTube live stream. Give me just a minute here. Be right. All right. So I am, if anybody does have insight, I am monitoring the chat here for a few minutes. And hopefully Rob will be able to join us. Let me see if he got his. I could try. If this doesn't work, then let me try this. Very strange. I'm not sure. Rob's had a few problems with the last few shows and staying connected with TFR, and I'm not sure if that's because of the, his computer connection or whatnot, but seems to be that there is still complications. And so if we have to, because I don't want to continue with the Genesis series, if, Rob's not able to patch in. And so if I need to, what I could do is pick up with the Archico volume and the series that I've been doing on that, which, for the new listeners or those that are tuning in for just the Genesis Revisited series, if you've never heard of this particular manuscript, I think you will still find it of great interest. It is an eyewitness of the Sanhedrin.
Hello.
Hey brother, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me, man?
Okay, well, I'm back in. I've joined the call, but I can't hear them and nobody can hear me for some reason.
No, we can hear you. Hey Dana, tell them we can hear you.
They can hear you.
Oh,
You can't hear them?
no. All right.
They can't hear you.
Check your
Yeah,
your
I'm checking
audio
my settings.
Okay.
Hang on.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he had to redo everything.
Okay, right on.
There we go.
All right, we're good.
There you go.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Dana.
Bye.
All right, appreciate it, brother.
Wow.
All
man.
right, good deal, man.
What a crazy deal that was. Sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. At least we got it resolved. I was just talking about, just the situation with the Capitol, all the rioting, and I was talking about how there seems to be a covert aspect, agent provocateur side to that whole situation. And so I thought, since you're on, if you'd care to comment, and then, we can move into the text afterwards.
Yeah, I posted something earlier today, and then immediately I got the sense like I was in trouble. So I took it down, but what I'm going to do is edit it and probably add some more stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, all I'm going to say right now really is just people need to be watching everything like a hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, tune whatever critical thinking skills you have to its highest notch and start downloading everything.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was, I don't know about you, what you were doing on the 6th, but what was it, yesterday? Man, it seems so long ago.
I know.
Man, it seems like a week ago.
So much packed into a day.
Yeah. Well, I was watching NTD, the YouTube channel NTD, And I was watching everything live, real time. And it was just like first his son spoke, and his son starts off by saying, hey, this is, look at how many people are here, and yet nobody's looting businesses or burning down buildings, or nobody's doing anything bad. Basically, it was imagine that we get so many people here, and it's all peaceful. And
right.
I've got several good friends of mine that were there, and all of them were saying the same thing. Yeah, it was like the most amazing, loving, awesome thing ever. Everybody they talked to, was like that. But I keep hearing these testimonies that people who were at the, I guess Trump was speaking. It looked like he was speaking from the White House. So I guess people were there, and he's the ultimate keynote speaker, right? I mean, if you're going to D.C., he's the guy you're going to hear, right? But apparently there were people in the back of the crowd that were like, all right, before Trump was even finished speaking, they're like, all right, we're going to the Capitol now, see you guys there. Like, there's a big hubbub about people, like a big portion of the back of the crowd left to go to the Capitol buildings, which means when they got there, they were the first at the Capitol building. So they were the closest to the building. And there's other people that have been showing footage of, police escorted Antifa vans showing up, and, Antifa people dressed up as MAGA people, coming out, with, Trump flags and everything else, trying to act the part. But anybody that had any interaction with them, they stood out like a sore thumb, because they don't have the same spirit. They don't have the same attitude. There's nothing about them that's the same, So even though they're wearing the similar outfits and the hats and the flags, they're totally different people with totally different attitudes. And I think what we have is a situation where, I mean, you get a charged environment with a lot of people, and all you need is that agent provocateur, like you were saying.
Yes.
To just kind of kickstart the whole thing. I mean, it's one thing to stand on the steps. Okay, let's say they did that, and maybe even up on the upper level there, and everybody, there's people. One guy was like, I was just getting ready to sing "Amazing Grace" when we heard the gunshot that killed that girl. But apparently there was some group that was there, and there have been many eyewitnesses testifying that like one or two people were off to the side busting down a door, like trying to get in. And then once the doors were open and they had gained access, they start stirring up, hey, come on in. And the video I showed today, and I was showing video from C-SPAN about the people going through the statuary hall, and they're filing in nice and slow. Nobody just, I mean, they're calling this an insurrection. Okay, we need to put this in perspective. And
everybody domestic terrorists.
Yeah, they're calling this a siege, an insurrection. And freaking Schumer, after they came back into session, he's saying this is a day of infamy. He was saying he was using verbiage used by, what was it, FDR after Pearl
Harbor.
Yeah, saying that, now we have the new day of infamy. And even if you just go on Google right now, just type in day of infamy, you'll see a few things about Pearl Harbor, but it's all full of, Trump supporters this, Trump supporters that. And I'm like, day of infamy. Over 2,000 people were killed at Pearl Harbor. Battleships were sunk. Property was destroyed. It was a declaration of war. You got people walking through velvet roped areas, just with cell phones and flags, Now I believe that there were ringleaders in there that were not legitimate Trump supporters, but I also believe there were Trump supporters in there that got, caught up in the fervor,
sucked in.
But one guy, he did a video. He's like, we went in there and we started praying. We were in the chamber, started praying on a megaphone. I'm like, and they're calling this an insurrection? And then after, what was it? Because that happened at like 2:00 in the afternoon, my time, Central Time. Although there was articles posted at 9:30 in the morning by NPR saying Trump sieged the White House. 9:30. This is like Building 7, right? Building 7 has been collapsed. They're saying Building 7,
right.
And there's the building right behind her.
Yes.
9 in the morning, NPR saying, hey, Trump supporters, siege the Capitol, whatever. But this happened at my time, 2 p.m. And if you're watching it in real time, there was, and I forget the woman's name, but she was really passionate. She had like a black blazer, and I think it was a red blouse. and glasses, and she's just like a hardcore Republican talking about, I'm going to say vote to frog because I don't want to get us flagged, but the overt verto frog, and passionate. And meanwhile, as she's speaking, you start to see the first people breaking through the barriers to go up the steps. And by the time the Republican representative from Arizona that was kind of bobbing his head and weaving a lot while he was talking, he was laying out the case for vote to frog also. And that's when all of a sudden the feed went dead, and next thing you know, we got all these reports. Oh, the Capitol's been sieged. There's an insurrection. And then they cut to a news feed, C-SPAN. This is like 20 seconds after the representative from Arizona speaks. 20 seconds later, they've got two cameras, not one, two. C-SPAN has two cameras set up in Statuary Hall. And look, I did corporate video for over 10 years. And the studio cameras, it's not like they were shooting with a cell phone. They've got very high-end professional cameras set up on tripods with cables running to a control room, and it's set up on a platform. They got a platform set up. They got tripods set up. They've got audio and all kinds of other gear rigged up, and the camera's sitting there to videotape these guys coming into Statuary Hall. Within 20 seconds of the representative laying out his case for Verto Frog. I'm
sort
like
the picture of the Apollo landing.
Yeah. I'm just saying, man, and what a setup. You got to hand it to the enemy. Say, yeah, it's pretty brilliant. Where do we go?
They know what they're doing. Yeah, they do know what they're doing, and they know how to take over a movement and steer it into frenzy, and make it look bad.
Well, yeah, and I don't know where we go from here, honestly, because even if there's a last-minute miracle that is pulled off that gets Trump in, even his own supporters are now, and the Republicans completely caved. But even his a lot of his, I'm seeing lots of videos of his own supporters, backing down now. Because when you had even Loeffler comes in like right afterwards, and she's like, well, I came here with the intent, and then I'm not gonna do it now because of the horrific events that took place today, blah blah blah.
Well, on the commercial right before we went on live here on TFR, it was talking about Trump conceding and basically allowing a peaceful transfer of power.
They're spinning it that way, but if you listen to what he said,
he
didn't concede. He said, I'll start the process of peaceful transition of power, but there was no verbiage of I concede. And he said, to all of our supporters, this is not the end; it's just beginning. So, I don't know. Frankly, I don't know what to believe about anything anymore. Honestly,
well, you can't trust media, that's for sure. And they spun it. It doesn't matter now if it's Fox or whatever. They are just portraying him like a sore loser and making everybody that is in any way doubtful, the helicopter crew, the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. Those are the buzzwords,
Yeah.
Conspiracy theorists. And
yeah, I don't know really where we go from here, because even if he got in, it's going to be a disaster. This
would be riots.
The way everything has been spun. Just the way everything has been spun. And the dude's going to have to walk around in bulletproof cages.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. I just keep praying, but wow. I kept thinking, the Star Wars prequels where Senator Amidala was watching as Emperor Palpatine was taking control, and she's always like, "Rah!" She's like, so this is how liberty dies, to the sound of thunderous applause.
Yeah. All the world's a stage, huh?
Well, and it's a very poorly written script with horrible actors. I mean, if this was a
Mhm.
movie, I mean, speaking of movies, right? I mean, we think when we use words like insurrection, and a siege, we think of movies like Die Hard. Okay.
Mhm.
Nobody took any prisoners. Nobody took any hostages. Nobody was killed, from the side of the protesters. They didn't kill anybody. I mean, nobody in government was killed. As far as I can tell, nobody in government was even hurt. The only people that got hurt were the protesters.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what kind of, and if you're going to liken this as a day of infamy to Pearl freaking Harbor, I mean, come on.
Well, besides it being a false flag too, but it's a whole nother story.
Well, Pearl Harbor also being a false flag
Yeah.
operation that they knew was going to happen. I mean, they
exactly.
they let it happen.
Allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
Allowed all those people to be sacrificed.
It's pretty horrific, but if
It is.
If this whole ordeal has shown us anything, in my opinion, it's shown us exactly how and why your votes didn't matter.
Right. Exactly.
I believe that I've kind of changed my position on this a bit because I've been very vocal about the votes didn't matter, it's all rigged, and your president's not elected, and I still believe that. But I think that this particular election showed why that is true, how that's true. Like your votes, on a technical sense, they do matter because they are a legitimate expression in a tangible form that serves as evidence, right? But I don't know if it was Stalin or whoever it was. It's not, it's not the vote that counts. It's who counts the votes that counts.
Exactly.
That
is the thing.
Yeah, that's the real issue.
Right.
And this particular election has shown in no uncertain terms what the deal is with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And we've been talking, and I saw that you did the show with Robbie and Paul on cryptos. Even how blockchain could situate and fix if we really wanted a true representation as far as voter and the electoral process and keeping tabs and tracks and really keeping that like a verified and valid process, how that could be done in consensus. But everything's rigged, and even with the digital voting machines and how all that can be hacked and numbers changed. The politicians and the powers that be, they don't want a true, legitimate and way to really track and make everything legitimate. They like being able to thwart, manipulate and deceive, and just pull it off the way they would want it to come out. Because the whole thing of voting, it's who counts the votes and what machines they use to do it, and so
exactly,
they got it all rigged. So
yep.
Well, go ahead. We got just a couple minutes. The first segment's already done, and we'll pick it up on the other side.
Okay. Just to prep for that, what are you thinking? We go to Genesis. Was it 25? Did we leave off? I guess. I think we did Genesis 24 in the last show.
I think so. I believe so.
Back. Yep.
Yeah, I've got everything open here, so let me check.
I don't believe we read from Jubilees or Joshua last week. I think we just went right to. We did Legends of Jews and Prophets. By the way, I got your book pack in today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I got a nice Zen Garcia book package today. So definitely some cool stuff I want to look at. Check out those things. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think you'll really dig the Order of the Ancients.
Yeah, for sure. So I got, when we come back from the break, I'll have Genesis 25 ready to go, and if you would do the Targums or whatever after that, and then I can look at Joshua or Jubilees.
Sounds good.
There. Cool.
Sounds good, man. Glad you were able to resolve the issue. So we'll be right back, everyone.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
Truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures. Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses,
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible?
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us the second Friday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
Here on Earth, we're intrigued by the sun, moon, and stars, and imagine there's got to be planets like ours. So conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose we've lost. And indeed they believe that these might be our gods, or that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve and eventually reach what they seek and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they fall in the works of our hands are but just filthy rags. So we travel the lands to dig up our past time, our lapses, and with it are much of the facts. Some imagine that gods came in alien class and reacted.
All right, welcome back everybody for our second portion. We are going to move into the Genesis Revisited series. Rob, chapter 25.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Genesis 25. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimram, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begat Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Ashurim and Letushim, and Leumim. And the sons of Midian, Ephath and Epher, and Hanak, and Abida, and Eldaah. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. But unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son while he yet lived eastward unto the east country. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 160 years. Then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well of Lahairoi. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to the generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedah, and Adbeel, and Mibsam. Gotta love these chapters. And Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, Jeter, Nephish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. Well, I guess those are the princes right there. So all of them, because we had that promise earlier,
right,
in the earlier chapters, that there would be 12 princes would come out of them. I didn't think it was that soon. I didn't think it was that soon in the narrative. Well, that's cool. You don't hear much about them, so
right.
Although I wonder if there's more of a tradition maybe in the Islamic faith, if they have some sort of elaboration on these characters. Are you aware?
I'm not, but I have not studied or looked into a lot of the, besides like the stories, the biblical stories that are saved in the ancient Arabic, like the stories of as it comes to pass, the stories of David and Solomon that are found in not just the Arabic, but in the Middle East and that area, the ancient Syriac and the Hebrew as well, and the Aramaic.
Gotcha. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years, and he gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people. And they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest toward Assyria, and he died in the presence of all his brethren. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padam Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. The one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of the venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field and was faint. And Esau said unto Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Oh, I know there's a lot more to go on this story certainly in the book of Joshua.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting that in the Legends of the Jews, when I read of it, it actually speaks about Esau having double sets of teeth.
Really? That's wow.
Yeah, interesting.
That's really bizarre. Like, okay, like
right, because
Isaac is his father.
Exactly, and Rebecca his mother, but it does make mention of him having double sets of teeth, which is a Nephilim or giant characteristic, So
that's don't know what to make of that.
Bizarre, right? Exactly. Yeah, I don't either. How do you explain that? But anyways, the Targum, chapter 25.
Okay.
And Abraham added and took a wife, and her name was Keturah. She is Hagar, who had been bound to him from the beginning. Jerusalem. She is Hagar, who had been tied to him from the beginning. And she bare to him Zimran and Jokshan and Medan and Midian and Yishbak and Shovak. And Jokshan begat Sheva and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were merchants and negotiators and chiefs of people. Jerusalem, merchants and artificers and chiefs of people. And the sons of Midian, Elipher and Epher and Honak and Abibda and Alda. All these were the sons of Keturah. And Abraham gave the gift of all he had to Isaac. And to the sons of the concubines of Abraham gave Abraham riches and movable property as gifts, and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived. And they went and dwelt eastward in the land of the Orient. And this is the number of the days of the life of Abraham, who lived 175 years. And Abraham expired and died in a good old age, aged and satisfied with all good. Also Ishmael wrought repentance in his last days, and afterwards was gathered to his people. And Isaac and Ishmael his sons buried him in the double cavern at the field of Ephraim Bar Zochar the Hittite, which is before Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased of the sons of Hittah. There was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And because Abraham had not designed to bless Ishmael, therefore he blessed not Isaac. For had he blessed Isaac and not Ishmael, it would have kept them in enmity. But after the death of Abraham, the Lord blessed Isaac. And Isaac dwelt near the well at which was revealed the glory of the living and eternal one, who seeth and is not seen. And these are the generations of Ishmael bar Abraham, whom Hagar the Mizraitha, the handmaid of Sarah, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Neboi, and Arab, and Abdil, and Mipsham, hearing silence, patience, and sharpness, and Tema, Yetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these their names and their villages, and in their fenced dwelling, 12 chiefs of their people. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he was converted in repentance and expired, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Hindiki unto Chalusa, which is in the face of Mizraim, from going up to Author. Before the face of all the brethren he dwelt in his possession. Jerusalem, in their villages and in their fenced dwellings, or encampments, 12 chiefs of their peoples, and they dwelt from Hindikiah and Chalusta, which is by the side of Mizraim, from thy going up towards Arthur before all his brethren he dwelt. All right, that is 25.
Okay, so that's not a whole lot of difference from what we had just saw in the King James. Let's check out Joshua 25. Joshua 25. And it was at that time that Abraham again took a wife in his old age, and her name was Keturah, from the land of Canaan. And she bare him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, Shuach, being six sons. And the children of Zimran were Abahim, Molech, and Naram. And the sons of Jokshan were Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Midian were Amida, Joab, Gachi, Elisha, and Nathak. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, Hanak, Abida, and Eldah. And the sons of Ishbak were Makiro, Bayuda, something like that, and Tater. And the sons of Shuach were Bildad, Mamdad, Munam, and Meban. And all these are the families of the children of Keturah, the Canaanite-ish woman, which she bare unto Abraham the Hebrew. And Abraham sent all these away, and he gave them gifts, and they went away from his son Isaac, and to dwell wherever they should find a place. And all these went to the mountain at the east, and they built themselves 6 cities in which they dwelt unto this day. And the children of Sheba and Dedan, children of Jokshan, with their children, did not dwell with their brethren in their cities, and they journeyed and encamped in the countries and wilderness unto this day. And the children of Midian, son of Abraham, went to the east of the land of Cush, and there found a large valley in the eastern country, and they remained there and built a city, and they dwelt therein. That is the land of Midian unto this day. And Midian dwelt in the city which he built, he and his 5 sons, and all belonging to him. And these are the names of the sons of Midian, according to their names in their cities: Ephah, Hanak, Abida, and Eldah. And the children of Ephah are Methach, Meshar, Avi, Zanua. And the sons of Ephah were Ephron, Zur, Alirum, and Midin. And the children of Hanak were Reuel, Rechem, Azai, Elioshub, and Elad. And the sons of Abida were Chur, Milud, Keruri, Malki. And the sons of Eldah were Milker, and Reba, and Malkiah, and Gabal. These are the names of the Midianites according to their families, and afterward the families of Midian spread throughout the land of Midian. And these are the generations of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, whom Hagar, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And Ishmael took a wife from the land of Egypt, and her name was Reba, and the same is Meribah. And Reba bare unto Ishmael Naboyath, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibzam, and their sister Basmath. And Ishmael cast away his wife Reba, and she went from him and returned to Egypt to the house of her father, and she dwelt there, for she had been very bad in the sight of Ishmael and in the sight of his father Abraham. And we saw that in some of the, like, the writings of Abraham and some of the other texts,
Right.
where he kept showing up and saying, your tent peg's bad.
Yes, exactly.
So this is sort of giving us a little bit more of that story, it looks like. And Ishmael afterward took a wife from the land of Canaan, and her name was Malkuth, and she bare him Nishma, Duma, Masa, Chadad, Tima, Yitur, Nephish, interesting, and Kedma. And these are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, being 12 princes according to their nations. And the families of Ishmael afterwards spread forth. And Ishmael took his children and all the property that he had gained, together with his sons, with the souls of his household, and all belonging to him. And they went to dwell where they should find a place. And they went and dwelt near the wilderness of Paran. And their dwelling was from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou comest toward Assyria. And Ishmael and his sons dwelt in the land, and they had children born to them, and they were fruitful and increased abundantly. And these are the names of the sons of Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael: Meand, Send, Mayon, and the sons of Kedar were Alyon, Kizim, Chamad, and Eli. And the sons of Abdiel were Chamad and Jabin. The sons of Mibzam were Abadiah, Abed-Melech, and Yush. These are the families of the children of Reba, the wife of Ishmael. And the sons of Mishma, the son of Ishmael, were Shemua, Zechariah, and Obed. And the sons of Dima were Kizad, Eli, Mahmad, and Ahmad. And the sons of Massa were Mula, and Abidadon. And the sons of Shaddad were Azar, Minzar, and Ebed-Melech. And the sons of Tema were Seir, Sadan, and Yakul. And the sons of Yetur were Merith, Yesh, Elio. I might as well be talking in tongues here. And Pakoth. The sons of Napish were Ebed, Temed, Abiyasaph, and Mur. And the sons of Kedma were Caleb, Takti, and Omer. These were the children of Makuth, the wife of Ishmael, according to their families. All these were the families of Ishmael according to the generations, and they dwelt in those lands wherein they had built themselves cities unto this day. And Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the wife of Abraham's son Isaac, was barren in those days. She had no offspring, and Isaac dwelt with his father in the land of Canaan. And the Lord was with Isaac, and Arphaxad, the son of Shem, the son of Noah, died in those days. Okay, Arphaxad, the son of Shem. I think he died before Shem did too, I think. In those days, in the 48th year of the life of Isaac, and all the days that Arphaxad lived were 438 years, and he died. I'll keep going. And in the 59th year of the life, this is chapter 26. And in the 59th year of the life of Isaac, the son of Abraham, Rebekah his wife was still barren in those days. And Rebekah said unto Isaac, Truly I have heard, my lord, that thy mother Sarah was barren in her days, until my lord Abraham, thy father, prayed for her, and she conceived by him. Now therefore stand up, pray thou also to God, and he will hear thy prayer, and remember us through his mercies. And Isaac answered his wife Rebekah, saying, Abraham has already prayed for me to God to multiply his seed. Now therefore this barrenness must proceed to us from thee. And Rebekah said unto him, But arise now thou also and pray, that the Lord may hear thy prayer and grant me children. And Isaac hearkened to the words of his wife. And Isaac and his wife rose up and went to the land of Moriah to pray there and to seek the Lord. And when they had reached that place, Isaac stood up and prayed to the Lord on account of his wife, because she was barren. And Isaac said, O Lord God of heaven and earth, whose goodness and mercies fill the earth, thou who didst take my father from his father's house and from his birthplace, and didst bring him unto this land, and didst say unto him, To thy seed will I give the land, and thou didst promise him, and didst declare unto him, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand of the sea. Now may thy words be verified, which thou didst speak unto my father. For thou art the Lord our God, our eyes are toward thee, to give us seed of men, as thou didst promise us. For thou art the Lord our God, and our eyes are directed toward thee only. And the Lord heard the prayer of Isaac, the son of Abraham, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And in about 7 months after the children struggled together within her, and it pained her greatly that she was wearied on account of them. And she said to all the women who were then in the land, Did such a thing happen to you as it has to me? And they said unto her, No. And she said unto them, Why am I alone in this amongst all the women that were upon the earth? And she went to the land of Moriah to seek the Lord on account of this. And she went to Shem and Eber, his son, to make inquiries of them in this matter, and that they should seek the Lord in this thing respecting her. And she also asked Abraham to seek and inquire of the Lord about all that had befallen her. And they all inquired of the Lord concerning this matter, and they brought her word from the Lord and told her, two children are in thy womb, and 2 nations shall rise from them, and 1 nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were completed, she knelt down, and behold, there were twins in her womb, as the Lord had spoken to her. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and all the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. And after that came his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Therefore they called his name Jacob. And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was 60 years old when he begat them. And the boys grew up to their 15th year, and they came amongst the society of men. Esau was a designing and deceitful man, and an expert hunter in the field. And Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, feeding flocks, and learning the instructions of the Lord and the commandments of his father and mother. And Isaac and the children of his household dwelt with his father Abraham in the land of Canaan, as God had commanded them. And Ishmael, the son of Abraham, went with his children and all belonging to them, and they returned there to the land of Havilah, and they dwelt there. And all the children of Abraham's concubines went to dwell in the land of the east, for Abraham had sent them away from his son, and had given them presents, and they went away. And Abraham gave all that he had to his son Isaac, and he also gave him all his treasures. And he commanded him, saying, Dost thou not know and understand the Lord is God in heaven and in earth, and there is no other beside him? And it was he who took me from my father's house and from my birthplace, and gave me all the delights upon earth, who delivered me from the counsel of the wicked, for in him did I trust. And he brought me to this place, and he delivered me from Ur-Kasdim. And he said unto me, To thy seed will I give all these lands, and they shall inherit them when they keep my commandments, my statutes, and my judgments, that I have commanded thee, and which I shall command them. Now therefore, my son, hearken to my voice, and keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee. Do not turn from the right way, either to the right or to the left, in order that it may be well with thee and thy children after thee forever. And remember the wonderful works of the Lord, and his kindness that he has shown toward us, in having delivered us from the hands of our enemies. And the Lord our God caused them to fall into our hands. And now therefore keep all that I have commanded thee, and turn not away from the commandments of thy God, and serve none beside him, in order that it may be well with thee and thy seed after thee. And teach thou thy children and thy seed the instructions of the Lord and his commandments, and teach them the upright way in which they should go, in order that it may be well with them forever. And Isaac answered his father and said unto him, That which my Lord has commanded, that will I do, and I will not depart from the commands of the Lord my God, and I will keep all that he commanded me. And Abraham blessed his son Isaac, and also his children. And Abraham taught Jacob the instructions of the Lord and his ways. And it was at that time that Abraham died, in the 15th year of the life of Jacob and Esau, the sons of Isaac. And all the days of Abraham were 175 years, and he died, and was gathered to his people in good old age, old and satisfied with days. And Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him. And when the inhabitants of Canaan heard that Abraham was dead, they all came with their kings and princes and all their men to bury Abraham. And all the inhabitants of the land of Haran, and all the families of the house of Abraham, and all the princes and grandees, and the sons of Abraham by the concubines, all came when they heard of Abraham's death. And they requited Abraham's kindness, and comforted Isaac his son. And they buried Abraham in the cave which he bought from Ephron the Hittite and his children for the possession of a burial place. And all the inhabitants of Canaan, and all those who had known...
We're at break.
Yep.
All right, we'll be right back, everyone. You got close, though.
Close.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
He says he's outraged. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. In a new video, President Trump took a stronger position on yesterday's chaos at the Capitol, calling the acts heinous.
The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy.
And he said he is now turning his attention to a smooth and orderly transition.
Now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. We must get on with the business of America.
And the president said he's serving as president has been the honor of his lifetime. After yesterday's violence, the Speaker of the House and Democratic leader of the Senate want President Trump to leave office now.
Democrats are calling on Vice President Mike Pence and the cabinet to immediately remove President Trump from office by way of the 25th Amendment.
A very dangerous person who should not continue in office. This is urgent. This is emergency of the highest magnitude.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says if the vice president and cabinet won't act, the House could move forward with impeachment. One House Republican, Illinois' Adam Kinzinger, is also urging the cabinet to act. The 25th Amendment allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge the powers of the office. It's a step that has never been taken before. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The acting U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C. says all options are on the table for those who stormed the Capitol, including sedition charges. More than 90 people have been arrested. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he requested and received the resignation of Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger, saying Stenger's deputy Jennifer Hemingway will step into the lead security role and will focus on addressing what he called serious failures ahead of the presidential inauguration. On Wall Street, the Dow added 211 points. The NASDAQ added 326. America is listening to Fox News.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We will continue with the Genesis Revisited series. Rob is reading from the book of Jasher. Rob, continue.
Okay. And all the inhabitants of Canaan and all those who had known Abraham wept for Abraham a whole year, and men and women mourned over him. And all the little children and all the inhabitants of the land wept on account of Abraham, for Abraham had been good to them all, and because he had been upright with God and men. And there arose not a man who feared God like unto Abraham, for he had feared his God from his youth, and had served the Lord, and had gone in all his ways during his life, from his childhood to the day of his death. And the Lord was with him, and delivered him from the counsel of Nimrod and his people. And when he made war with the 4 kings of Elam, he conquered them. And he brought all the children of the earth to the service of God, and he taught them the ways of the Lord and caused them to know the Lord. And he formed a grove, and he planted a vineyard therein, and he had always prepared in his tent meat and drink to those that passed through the land, that they might satisfy themselves in his house. And the Lord God delivered the whole earth on account of Abraham. And it was after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac and his children. And the Lord was with Isaac as he had been with his father Abraham. For Isaac kept all the commandments of the Lord as Abraham his father had commanded him. And he did not turn to the right or to the left from the right path which his father had commanded him. I'll keep going. Chapter 27, I think, catches us up to the Genesis account.
All right.
Chapter 27. And Esau, at that time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went in the field to hunt. And Nimrod, king of Babel, the same was Amraphel, also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field, and to walk about with his men in the cool of the day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. And on a certain day Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his 2 men. And all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness, but they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him, and Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and 2 of his men that were with him came to the place where they were, when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place, and drew his sword, and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod, and when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod, who had left him to go to the wilderness, heard the cry at a distance, and they knew the voices of those 2 men, and they ran to know the cause of it, when they found their king and the 2 men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land. And he ran and concealed himself in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men. And he came unto his father's house, wearied and exhausted from the fight. And he was ready to die from grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother Jacob, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by the Lord. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth for the possession of a burial ground, Esau also sold to Jacob. And Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for value given. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witnesses, and he sealed it, and the book remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod, the son of Cush, died, his men lifted him up and brought him in consternation and buried him in his city. And all the days that Nimrod lived were 215 years, and he died. And the days that Nimrod reigned upon the people of the land were 185 years, and Nimrod died by the sword of Esau in shame and contempt. And the seed of Abraham caused his death, as he had seen in his dream. And at the death of Nimrod, his kingdom became divided into many divisions, and all those parts that Nimrod reigned over were restored to the respective kings of the land, who recovered them after the death of Nimrod. And all the people of the house of Nimrod were for a long time enslaved to all the other kings of the land.
Excellent. I love that portion of the story.
Yeah.
Because it goes into that whole book that I wrote, The Vestures of Light and the Rod of Wonder. Did you want to pick up with Jubilees, or did you want me to do one of these?
See if you do you have anything from Legends of the Jew or from?
Yeah, I've got something set up here.
On this?
I'll read from the Legends of the Jews.
I didn't really pick it up. I didn't really get it this much from Joshua, but I'm wondering if it's in any of the other texts. Somewhere I was under the impression that the lentil soup that Jacob was preparing was actually the mourner's soup for the death of Abraham, because his father would be attending to, you know, the burial rites issues. And so it would be to the firstborn son to take care of the lentil thing. And Esau, being the firstborn, should have been doing his job, but he wasn't, which is why Jacob's like, look, dude, I'm doing your job. I mean, if you don't care about your birthright, I mean, you should be doing this. If you don't care, you know, let me have it. And of course, Esau just came back from killing Nimrod. So he's like, oh, what do I care about my birthright for? I'm going to die here. Just give me something, you know, like this is why I love this passage so much, because in the King James, you know, here's this guy who's built up as a mighty hunter. You know, I mean, it's one of the reasons why his dad loves him so much is that that's my boy. He brings home the venison, you know, and this mighty hunter comes home and he sells his birthright for a bowl of beans. What? That doesn't make like any sense in the King James. This, you know, or any Bible for that matter, you know, that leaves out the largest. So, I mean, this is what I read 3 chapters of Joshua that cover the same territory, you know, of events that we read in one short chapter 25 of Genesis. So yeah, I really like that, but I can't remember where I had read that it was the lentil soup that was being prepared for the because of the death of Abraham. It didn't seem that clear in Joshua.
And it was Passover, right? Yeah, it goes into it in more detail in this particular book, and also in the Perkdi Rabbi Eleazar and others. But I'll read from the Legends of the Jews, because this one goes into pretty good detail about all that.
Cool.
The last years of Abraham. Rebekah first saw Isaac as he was coming from the way of Beer Lahai Roi, the dwelling place of Hagar, whither he had gone after the death of his mother, for the purpose of reuniting his father with Hagar, or as she is also called, Keturah. Hagar bore him 6 sons, who, however, did scant honor to their father, for they all were idolaters. Abraham, therefore, during his own lifetime, sent them away from the presence of Isaac, so that they might not be singed by Isaac's flame, and gave them the instruction to journey eastward as far as possible. There he built a city for them, surrounded by an iron wall so high that the sun could not shine into the city. But Abraham provided them with huge gems and pearls, their luster more brilliant than the light of the sun, which will be used in the Messianic time, when the moon shall be confounded and the sun ashamed. Also Abraham taught them the black art wherewith they held sway over demons and spirits. It is from this city in the east that Laban, Balaam, and Balaam's father Beor derived their sorceries. Epher, one of the grandsons of Abraham and Keturah, invaded Libya with an armed force and took possession of the country. From this Epher, the whole land of Africa has its name. Aram is also a country made habitable by kinsmen of Abraham. In his old age, Terah constructed a new marriage with Pelilah, and from this union sprang a son, Zobah, who was the father in turn of 3 sons. The oldest of these, Aram, was exceedingly rich and powerful, and the old home in Haran sufficed not for him and his kinsmen, the sons of Nahor, the brother of Abraham. Aram and his brethren and all that belonged to him therefore departed from Haran. And they settled in a vale, and they built themselves a city there, which they called Aram Zobah, to perpetuate the names of the father and his firstborn son. Another Aram, Aram Naharim, on the Euphrates was built by Aram, son of Kemuel, a nephew of Abraham. Its real name was Petor, after the son of Aram, but it is better known as Aram Naharaim. The descendants of Chesed, another nephew of Abraham, a son of his brother Nahor, established themselves opposite to Shinar, where they founded the city of Kesed, the city whence the Chaldees are called Kasdim. Though Abraham knew full well that Isaac deserved his paternal blessing beyond all his sons, yet he withheld it from him, that no hostile feelings be aroused among his descendants. He spake and said, I am but flesh and blood here today, tomorrow in the grave. What I was able to do for my children, I have done. Henceforth let come what God desires to do in his world. And it happened that immediately after the death of Abraham, God himself appeared unto Isaac and gave him his blessing. When the day of the death of Abraham drew near, the Lord said to Michael, Arise and go to Abraham and say to him, Thou shalt depart from life, and so that he might set his house in order before he died. And Michael went and came to Abraham, found him sitting before his oxen for plowing. Abraham, seeing Michael, but not knowing who he was, saluted him and said to him, Sit down a little while, and I will order a beast to be brought, and we will go to my house, that thou mayest rest with me, for it is toward evening. And arise in the morning and go whithersoever thou wilt. And Abraham called one of his servants and said to him, Go and bring me a beast, that the stranger may sit upon it, for he is wearied with his journey. But Michael said, I abstain from ever sitting upon any four-footed beast. Let us walk, therefore, till we reach thy house. On their way to the house, they passed a huge tree, and Abraham heard a voice from its branches saying, Holy art thou, because thou hast kept the purpose for which thou wast sent. Abraham hid the mystery in his heart, thinking that the stranger did not hear it. Arrived at his house, he ordered the servants to prepare a meal, and while they were busy with their work, he called his son Isaac and said to him, Arise and put water in the vessel that we may wash the feet of the stranger. And he brought it as he was commanded, and Abraham said, I perceive that in this basin I shall never again wash the feet of any man coming to us as a guest. Hearing this, Isaac began to weep, and Abraham, seeing his son weep, also wept, and Michael, seeing them weep, wept also. And the tears of Michael fell into the water and became precious stones. Before sitting down to the table, Michael arose, went out for a moment, as if to ease nature, and ascended to heaven in the twinkling of an eye, and stood before the Lord and said to him, Lord and Master, let thy power know that I am unable to remind that righteous man of his death, for I have not seen upon the earth a man like him, compassionate, hospitable, righteous, truthful, devout, refraining from every evil deed. Then the Lord said to Michael, Go down to my friend Abraham, and whatever he may say to thee, that do thou also, and whatever he may eat, eat thou also with him, and I will cast the thought of death of Abraham into the heart of Isaac, his son, in a dream, and Isaac will relate the dream, and thou shalt interpret it, and he himself will know his end. And Michael said, Lord, all the heavenly spirits are incorporeal, and neither eat nor drink, and this man has set before me a table with an abundance of all good things, earthly and corruptible. Now, Lord, what shall I do? The Lord answered him, Go down to him, take no thought for this, for when thou sittest down with him, I will send upon thee a devouring spirit, and it will consume out of thy hands and through thy mouth all that is on the table. And then Michael went into the house of Abraham, and they ate and drank and were merry. And when the supper was ended, Abraham prayed after his custom, and Michael prayed with him, and each lay down to sleep upon his couch in one room, while Isaac went to his chamber, lest he be troublesome to the guest. About the 7th hour of the night, Isaac awoke and came to the door of his father's chamber. crying out and saying, "Open, Father, that I may touch thee before they take thee away from me." And Abraham wept together with his son. And when Michael saw them weep, he wept likewise. And Sarah, hearing the weeping, called forth from her bedchamber, saying, "My lord Abraham, why this weeping? Hast the stranger told thee of thy brother's son Lot, that he is dead, or hast aught befallen us?" Michael answered and said to her, "Nay, my sister Sarah, it is not as thou sayest, but thy son Isaac, methinks, beheld a dream, and came to us weeping, and we seeing him were moved in our hearts, and wept." Sarah, hearing Michael speak, knew straightway that it was an angel of the Lord, one of the 3 angels whom they had entertained in their house once before. And therefore she made a sign to Abraham to come out toward the door, to inform him of what she knew. Abraham said, "Thou hast perceived well, for I too, when I washed his feet, knew in my heart that they were the feet that I washed at the oak of Mamre, and that went to save Lot." Abraham, returning to his chamber, made Isaac relate his dream, which Michael interpreted to them, saying, "Thy son Isaac has spoken truth, for thou shalt go and be taken up into the heavens, but thy body shall remain on earth until 7,000 ages are fulfilled, for then all flesh shall arise. Now, therefore, Abraham, set thy house in order, for thou wast heard what is decreed concerning thee." Abraham answered, "Now I know thou art an angel of the Lord, and was sent to take my soul. But I will not go with thee, but do thou whatever thou art commanded." Michael returned to heaven and told God of Abraham's refusal to obey his summons, and he was again commanded to go down and admonish Abraham not to rebel against God, who had bestowed many blessings upon him. And he reminded him that no one who has come from Adam and Eve can escape death, and that God, in his great kindness towards him, did not permit the sickle of death to meet him, but sent his chief captain Michael to him. "Wherefore then," he ended, "hast thou said to the chief captain, I will not go with thee?" When Michael delivered these exhortations to Abraham, he saw that it was futile to oppose the will of God, and he consented to die, but wished to have one desire of his fulfilled while still alive. He said to Michael, "I bless thee, Lord. If I must depart from my body, I desire to be taken up in my body, that I may see the creatures that the Lord has created in heaven and on earth." Michael went up into heaven and spake before the Lord concerning Abraham. And the Lord answered Michael, "Go and take up Abraham in the body and show him all things, and whatever he shall say to thee, do to him as to my friend." The archangel Michael went down and took Abraham upon a chariot, the chair of the cherubim, and lifted him up into the air of heaven, led him upon the cloud together with 60 angels. And Abraham ascended upon the chariot over all the earth, and saw all things that are below on the earth, both good and bad. Looking down upon the earth, he saw a man committing adultery with a wedded woman, and turning to Michael, he said, "Send fire from heaven to consume them." Straightway there came down fire, consumed them, for God had commanded Michael to do whatsoever Abraham should ask him to do. He looked again, and he saw thieves digging through a house, and Abraham said, "Let wild beasts come out of the desert and tear them in pieces." And immediately wild beasts came out of the desert and devoured them. Again he looked down, and he saw people preparing to commit murder, and he said, "Let the earth open and swallow them." And as he spoke, the earth swallowed them alive. Then God spoke to Michael, "Turn away Abraham to his own house, and let him not go round the whole earth, because he has no compassion on sinners. But I have compassion on sinners, that they may turn and live and repent of their sins and be saved." And so Michael turned to the chariot and brought Abraham to the place of judgment of all souls. Here he saw 2 gates, the one broad, the other narrow, the narrow gate that of the just, which leads to life, They that enter, though it go into paradise. The broad gate is that of sinners, which leads to destruction and eternal punishment. Then Abraham wept, saying, Woe is me! What shall I do? For I am a man big of body, and how shall I be able to enter by the narrow gate? Michael answered and said to Abraham, Fear not, nor grieve, for thou shalt enter by it unhindered, and all they who are like thee. Abraham, perceiving that a soul was adjudged to be set in the midst, asked Michael the reason for it, and Michael answered, Because the judge found its sins and its righteousness equal, he neither committed it to judgment nor to be saved. Abraham said to Michael, Let us pray for this soul and see whether God will hear us. And when they rose up from their prayer, Michael informed Abraham that the soul was saved by the prayer and was taken by an angel and carried up to paradise. Abraham said to Michael, Let us yet call upon the Lord and supplicate his compassion and entreat his mercy for the souls of the sinners whom I formerly in my anger cursed and destroyed, whom the earth devoured and the wild beasts tore in pieces, and the fire consumed through my words. Now I know that I have sinned before the Lord, our God. After the joint prayer of the archangel and Abraham, there came a voice from heaven saying, Abraham, Abraham, I have hearkened to thy voice and thy prayer, and I forgive thee thy sin, and those whom thou thinkest that I destroyed. I have called up and brought them into life by my exceeding kindness, because for a season I have requited them in judgment, and those whom I destroy living upon earth I will not requite in death. When Michael brought Abraham back to his house, they found Sarah dead. Not seeing what had become of Abraham, she was consumed with grief and gave up her soul. Though Michael had fulfilled Abraham's wish and had showed him all the earth and the judgment and the recompense, he still refused to surrender his soul to Michael. And the archangel again ascended to heaven and said unto the Lord, Thus speaks Abraham, I will not go with thee, and I will refrain from laying my hands on him, because from the beginning he was thy friend, and he has done all things pleasing in thy sight. There is no man like him on earth, not even Job, the wondrous man. But when the day of the death of Abraham drew nigh, God commanded Michael to adorn death with great beauty, and send him thus to Abraham, that he might see him with his eyes. While sitting under the oak of Mamre, Abraham perceived a flashing of light and a smell of sweet odor, and turning around he saw death coming toward him in great glory and beauty. And death said unto Abraham, Think not, Abraham, that this beauty is mine, or that I come thus to every man. Nay, but if anyone is righteous like thee, I thus take a crown and come to him. But if he is a sinner, I come in great corruption, and out of their sins I make a crown for my head. And I shake them with great fear, so that they are dismayed. Abraham said to him, And art thou indeed he that is called Death? He answered and said, I am the bitter name. But Abraham answered, I will not go with thee. And Abraham said to Death, Show us thy corruption. And Death revealed his corruption, showing two heads. The one had the face of a serpent, the other head like a sword. All the servants of Abraham, looking at the fierce mien of Death, died. But Abraham prayed to the Lord, and he raised them up, as the looks of Death were not able to cause Abraham's soul to depart from him. God removed the soul of Abraham as in a dream, and the archangel Michael took it up into heaven. After great praise and glory had been given to the Lord by the angels who brought Abraham's soul, and after Abraham bowed down to worship, then came the voice of God saying thus, Take my friend Abraham into paradise, where are the tabernacles of my righteous ones, and the abodes of my saints, Isaac and Jacob in his bosom. All right, we'll pick it up on the other side. We'll be right back for final segment.
From the dawn of man, we have turned to nature to help attain balance within ourselves. But somewhere, we lost our way. Western culture is once again remembering the healing benefits of CBD, the non-psychoactive component of the hemp plant. That's why more and more people who use CBD report relief from inflammation and chronic pain, balanced blood sugar and cardiovascular system, relief from muscle tensions, tremors, migraines, headaches, anxiety, depression, and the list goes on. The big question is, where do you get it? Life is a 99% pure CBD oil made with all organic ingredients, and it's available to TFR listeners worldwide. If you use coupon code TFR at checkout, you'll get $5 towards your order. Head on over to ialife.com now. That's AYA life.com.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I mean, I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
Dowsing is the ancient science of finding water and metal underground. Albert Einstein said that dowsing was tapping into earth energies which modern science as yet does not understand. Diamonds, silver, gold, and platinum objects have all been found using dowsing. And now, for the first time on film, we visit the pyramids, Stonehenge, and ancient sites, dowsing for buried treasure and tapping into this mysterious earth energy.
The Enigma Channel. Intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back, everybody, for final segment. For the sake of time and convenience, I went ahead and skipped down to the part where Isaac is born. It does, in the Testament of the Patriarchs and the Prophets, which is a book that we have of all the testaments from Adam going on all the way to Solomon and Moses and on. It tells the story of Abraham's death, which is very elaborate, as I read previously, but I wanted to catch up and then give you a chance to also touch on Jubilees. So I'll just pick up with Isaac here and then we'll move forward.
Okay.
Isaac was the counterpart of his father in body and soul. He resembled him in every particular, in beauty, wisdom, strength, wealth, and noble deeds. It was therefore as great an honor for Isaac to be called the son of his father, as for Abraham to be called the father of his son. And though Abraham was the progenitor of 30 nations, he is always designated as the father of Isaac. Despite his many excellent qualities, Isaac married late in life. God permitted him to meet the wife suitable to him only after he had successfully disproved the mocking charges of Ishmael, who was in the habit of taunting him with having been circumcised at the early age of 8 days, while Ishmael had submitted himself voluntarily to the operation when he was 13 years old. For this reason, God demanded Isaac. Oh, I need to be sharing, I think. Yes. For God demanded Isaac as a sacrifice when he had attained to full manhood. At the age of 37, and Isaac was ready to give up his life. Ishmael's jibes were thus robbed of their sting, and Isaac was permitted to marry. But another delay occurred before his marriage could take place. Directly after the sacrifice on Mount Moriah, his mother died, and he mourned her for 3 years. Finally, he married Rebekah, who was then a maiden of 14. Rebekah was a rose between thorns. Her father was the Aramean Bethuel, and her brother was Laban, but she did not walk in their ways. Her piety was equal to Isaac's. Nevertheless, their marriage was not entirely happy, for they lived together no less than 20 years without begetting children. Rebekah besought her husband to entreat God for the gift of children, as his father Abraham had done. At first, Isaac would not do her bidding. God had promised Abraham a numerous progeny, and he thought their childlessness was probably Rebekah's fault, and it was her duty to supplicate God and not his. But Rebekah would not desist. And husband and wife repaired to Mount Moriah together to pray to God there. And Isaac said, O Lord God of heaven and earth, whose goodness and mercies fill the earth, thou who didst take my father from his father's house and from his birthplace, and didst bring him unto this land, and didst say unto him, to thee and thy seed will I give the land, and didst promise him and declare unto him, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand of the sea. Now may thy words be verified, which thou didst speak unto my father. For thou art the Lord our God, our eyes are toward thee, to give us seed of men as thou didst promise us, for thou art the Lord our God, and our eyes are upon thee. Isaac prayed furthermore that all children destined for him might be born unto him from this pious wife of his. And Rebekah made the same petition regarding her husband Isaac and the children destined for her. Their united prayer was heard, yet it was chiefly for the sake of Isaac that God gave them children. It is true, Rebekah's piety equaled her husband's, but the prayer of a pious man who is the son of a pious man is far more efficacious than the prayer of one who, though pious himself, is descended from a godless father. The prayer wrought a great miracle, for Isaac's physique was such that he could not have been expected to beget children, and equally it was not in the course of nature that Rebekah should bear children. When Rebekah had been pregnant 7 months, she began to wish that the curse of childlessness had not been removed from her. She suffered torturous pain, because her twin sons began their lifelong quarrels in her womb. They strove to kill each other. If Rebekah walked in the vicinity of a temple erected to idols, Esau moved in her body. And if she passed a synagogue or a Beth Ha Midrash, Jacob essayed to break forth from her womb. The quarrels of the children turned upon such differences as these. Esau would insist that there was no life except the earthly life of material pleasures, and Jacob would reply, my brother, there are 2 worlds before us, this world and the world to come. In this world men eat and drink and traffic and marry and bring up sons and daughters, but all this does not take place in the world to come. If it please thee, do thou take this world, and I will take the other. Esau had Samuel as his ally, who desired to slay Jacob in his mother's womb. But the archangel Michael hastened to Jacob's aid. He tried to burn Samael, and the Lord saw it was necessary to constitute a heavenly court for the purpose of arbitrating the case of Michael and Samael. Even the quarrel between the two brothers regarding the birthright had its beginning before they emerged from the womb of their mother. Each desired to be the first to come into the world. It was only when Esau threatened to carry his point at the expense of his mother's life that Jacob gave way. Rebekah asked other women whether they too had suffered such pain during their pregnancy, and when they told her they had not heard of a case like hers, except the pregnancy of Nimrod's mother, she betook herself to Mount Moriah, whereon Shem and Eber had their Beth Ha Midrash. She requested them, as well as Abraham, to inquire of God what the cause of her dire suffering was. And Shem replied, My daughter, I confide a secret to thee. See to it that none finds it out. 2 nations are in thy womb, and how should thy body contain them, seeing that the whole world would not be large enough for them to exist in it together peaceably? 2 nations they are, each owning a world of its own. The one, the Torah, the other, sin. From the one will spring Solomon, the builder of the temple. From the other, Vespasian, the destroyer thereof. These 2 are what are needed to raise the number of nations to 70. They will never be in the same estate. Esau will vaunt lords, while Jacob will bring forth prophets. And if Esau has princes, Jacob will have kings. They, Israel and Rome, are the 2 nations destined to be hated by all the world. One will exceed the other in strength. First, Esau will subjugate the whole world, but in the end, Jacob will rule over all. The older of the 2 will serve the younger, provided this one is pure of heart. Otherwise, the younger will be enslaved by the older. The circumstances connected with the birth of her twin sons were as remarkable as those during the period of Rebekah's pregnancy. Esau was the first to see the light, and with him all impurity came from the womb. Jacob was born clean and sweet of body. Esau was brought forth with hair, beard, and teeth, both front and back. See, double sets of teeth. Yeah. And he was blood red, a sign of his future sanguinary nature. On account of his ruddy appearance, he remained uncircumcised. Isaac, his father, feared that it was due to poor circulation of the blood, and he hesitated to perform the circumcision. He decided to wait until Esau should attain his 13th year, the age at which Ishmael had received the sign of the covenant. But when Esau grew up, he refused to give heed to his father's wish, and so he was left uncircumcised, the opposite of his brother in this, as in all respects. Jacob was born with the sign of the covenant upon his body, a rare distinction, but Esau also bore a mark upon him at birth, the figure of a serpent, the symbol of all that is wicked and hated of God. The names conferred upon the brothers are pregnant with meaning. The older was called Esau because he was Asuai, fully developed when he was born, and the name of the younger was given to him by God to point to some important events in the future of Israel by the numerical value of each letter. The first letter is Yaakov, Yod, with the value of 10, stands for the Decalogue. The second, Ayin, equal to 70, for the 70 elders, the leaders of Israel. The third, Kaf, 100, for the temple, 100 ells in height. And the last, Bet, for the 2 tables of stone. All right, I'll stop there and let you catch up.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in in what you read there. Earlier, it said that Hagar also called Keturah. I had heard that before, that there are various sources that claim that Keturah and Hagar are the same person. Do you find that that's a common thing, or is it?
I do, but in the legends, and I'll actually pull this, just the first part because it mentions this. In the legends of the patriarchs and prophets, it says this about that. Abraham, after the death of Sarah, had brought back Hagar, and she was called Keturah, which signifies the bondwoman. And this she was called because she had ever regarded herself as bound to Abraham, though he had cast her away. But others say that Keturah was not Hagar, but was a daughter of one of Abraham's slaves. She bare him 6 sons, all strong and men of clear understandings. And so, in this particular, the legends of the patriarchs and the prophets, it brings out both accounts.
So I'm looking up their names in the Dictionary of Scripture Proper Names by J.B. Jackson. Hagar means ensnaring the sojourner, and Keturah's name means incense. It doesn't really tell you much. So, apparently they're of a divided opinion in these various rabbinic sources.
Well, this Legends of the Patriarchs and the Prophets, it doesn't just have the rabbinic, it has the entire world tradition. This is the one that also speaks about the Musulman traditions.
Right.
And then it brings forth the stories of, the Orient, and like in the story of the deluge, which just covers, it brings every account from around the world, even a lot of Native American traditions and, those kind of stories. So it brings forth every mythology that it can find, which is why it's very interesting.
Yeah. But you haven't, this is the first time you've referenced it tonight, the Legends of the Patriarchs and Prophets. Before you read earlier, you were reading from Targum, and then I read Joshua, and then everything else has been from Legend of the Jews, right?
Right. The Legends of the Legends of the Jews, yes.
So there was also the huge gems that were reserved for the last days when the sun and moon will go dim.
Right. Yeah. That's very interesting.
That was, I was, huh?
Yeah.
That reminds me of, like, whenever you see people depict Atlantis, that it was essentially like a crystal run community,
right?
Large crystals used for power sources and giving of light, and that was
even some of that Tartarian stuff seems to be connected to some kind of some kind of technology which we don't yet understand.
Well, I mean, it specifically said there that they were going to come back, like Abraham gave it to him, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he had them, which is intriguing. Like, where did he get them from? And who did he give it to? He gave it to, was it Ishmael, or who was he giving that to? I don't remember. Do you remember who he gave the?
And going back here,
it was pretty early.
Oh yeah, that was in the other part, yeah. But I can find it here.
So it makes you wonder. Okay, A, where did he get them from, and B, whoever he gave them to, where are they now, and that it's going to come back again in the last days. In the
Messianic age.
Like, that's pretty crazy. It's one of those things you would definitely like to follow up on. That also made it sound like Sarah was still around. I was kind of confused as to if she was just in the dream that Isaac was having, that because it sounded like after that he tells him about the dream.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Right there.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
But Abraham provided them. Who's the them? Who's he giving it to?
with huge gems.
Scroll up a little bit.
Oh, these were the sons of of Ishmael, the 12 kings.
Hagar bore 6 sons, who, however, did scant honor to their father, for they all were idolaters. Abraham, therefore, during his own lifetime, sent them away from the presence of Isaac, that they might not be signed by Isaac's flame, and gave them the instruction to journey eastward as far as possible. There he built a city for them, surrounded by an iron wall so high that the sun could not shine. Wow, these are the children of Keturah that he didn't want around with Isaac. So he sends them away, builds a huge city for them with a high iron wall, and providing them with huge gems and pearls, their luster more brilliant than the light of the sun, which will be used in the messianic time when the moon and the sun don't, where the shall be confounded and the sun ashamed. What? Like, this is pretty wild.
And then this part too.
Yeah.
And also Abraham taught them the black art, wherewith they held sway over demons and spirits. So that's sort of like Solomon, having
having
power,
the ring power kind of thing.
Yeah,
this is crazy because if we don't accept that it's Keturah is Hagar, she's a Canaanite. Genesis talks about her being a Canaanite. So, and that always tripped me. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, And, we see that, later the Midianites in particular give them a hard time, but it says right here, it is from this city in the east that Laban, Balaam, and Balaam's father Beor derived their sorceries. Whoa. So it doesn't make sense that it would be Hagar, because you don't really see that, why would Sarah have a woman like that, for a handmaiden? And we don't, Ishmael has these qualities, but we definitely see some pretty freaky stuff coming out of the Keturah line. Especially that's just, so it'd be these, maybe safe to say these Nephilim tribes that came from Abraham, that he put them in a high walled city and then gave them these special crystals. I mean, this is like, Sauron and the
yeah, fully
the big tower with the eye on it kind of thing. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I do remember also that in the Asatur, the secret book of Moses, when it speaks about some of the books that were given to Adam, that they were inscribed on gems. And it made me wonder if it were like the emerald tablets of Thoth.
Yeah.
Because that's inscribed on those really green stones, or if it were some kind of like, I don't even know how you would inscribe a book on a gem other than like even with what Moses, with the 10 Commandments inscribed on the 2 tablets of stone as well.
Right. Well, but you had the gemstones they were on the high priest's shoulder. They had six of the tribes on the left and 6 on the tribes on the right. So, there's a lot to do with that kind of stuff, like the Urim and Thummim.
Yeah.
So you have the breastplate of gold that had the 12 gemstones, different ones for each of the 12 tribes. And then you take these other stones and you put it behind the breastplate. And, I always envisioned it that something happens and it kind of, it kind of lights up a pattern on the jewels that somehow they interpret. I mean, it's very trippy when you study it.
Yeah. I remember also in the Legends of the Jews that it speaks about that, the priest, the high priest, that they were able to somehow receive answer from that
by doing
breastplate. Yeah.
It's like
it's very intriguing.
Forgotten gem-based technology.
Right.
And they talk about, the walls have ears. Not so much our fabricated walls that we have now, but back when they were building houses out of stone, like castles and stuff like that, like courts and different things that have recording properties.
Right. Yeah, the courts.
yeah, that the stones can actually record. You know, how you play it back, I don't know, but apparently there's they've determined that there are ways that they can retain information. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, they use quartz chips now in computer and television and radio.
Yeah, radio.
You know, to send and transmit. Yeah. Radio waves and to receive them, and so the quartz is able to, you know, to capture and send signals and to receive transmissions, and so somehow we have tapped into that to some degree, but you know, seemingly the ancients were very much more advanced with such technologies.
Well, I mean, look at lasers, right? I mean, that's shooting a light through a gem, right?
Right.
And like I understand cassette tapes. I understand laying down the magnetic tracks and the playhead reading the magnetic tracks. I can understand the mechanism whereby we can get recorded data onto tape. I get that. And a record player, I mean, that's pretty simple. It's grooves in vinyl that make a vibration when the needle goes across it. I get that. But how a laser looks at a disc and provides movies for me or music, I don't get. I mean, I can't for the life of me get that. I mean, like the disc, as I understand it, it has like microscopic dimples, like a raising and lowering in the plastic. This is what I learned when I was trying to understand the difference between duplication and replication. There's a difference in the process of how data is laid down on it, like a DVD ROM or a DVD disc, for instance. Pretty huge difference in that. But still, whether it's dots or whatever pattern is laid down on the plastic, how a light beam going across that can translate into visual or audio, you know. I don't get that. I don't understand it.
Beyond me.
But this is probably, you know, I have a feeling if we could go back in time and look, we probably realize that the stuff that we're doing now is a dumbed down version of much more advanced stuff.
Right.
The ancients.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
Apparently knew. Only got a few minutes before the end of the show, but there are several things in there. 7,000 ages, then all flesh shall rise. That one made me think, and if that's true, then we've got a lot more time left. Even assuming the unless it's talking about it sounded like it was 7,000 ages from the time of his death. At least that's the way I heard it.
I've come across this before, and back then I had interpreted like, you know, a day is as 1,000 years, and so you have the 6,000 years and then the millennial reign, and I had always thought that, you know, we were near,
right,
because everybody thought, you know, 2,000 years from Adam to Abraham, Abraham to Yeshua, and then Yeshua to where we are now, that this is 6,000 years. But when you see 5,500 years still is coming from Adam, it throws a wrench into the whole thing. So.
A big monkey wrench into all that.
So how that plays out, I don't know.
That was pretty cool, though. I mean, it was kind of pretty wild story there about Abraham not wanting to die and everything that that he was doing to avoid all that, and some pretty wild stuff going on with Michael and his tears.
Turning in the gemstones.
Yeah, like, you know, I'm just thinking visually, like, you know, if I was to depict some of this stuff in a movie or something, there's a lot of cool stuff to dig into there just in this one that we're reading through here.
And then recognizing his feet, you know, as the, you know, one of the angels that came to save Lot. And,
right.
Yeah. And then the whole, you know, because nobody ever shows that it was the word of the Lord that had come with Michael as well. You know, when he went to visit Abraham and made the covenant with him of circumcision. All right, man. Another good show, brother.
Great show. All right, blessings. We'll see you next week.
All right. Shalom. Good night, all. Blessings.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.